Just let your brother handle it, Elizabeth. Fashion is changing, and we need someone stronger at the helm, my mother said, her voice dripping with that familiar condescension as she paced our family's Manhattan penthouse. I sat quietly at the marble dining table, my grandmother's last will and testament spread before me, still fresh from the lawyer's office. Stronger, I repeated, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling beneath the surface. You mean male? My mother sighed dramatically, adjusting her channel jacket, ironically, one I had designed during my first year at the company. Don't make this about gender, darling. James has an MBA from Wharton. He understands modern business. I nearly laughed. James, my beloved brother, who had spent more time partying through business school than studying. James, who hadn't worked a single day in the fashion industry, while I had literally grown up in the ateliers of House of Montgomery, learning every aspect of the business from the ground up. Grandmother chose me, I said firmly, touching the embossed letterhead of her will. She built this company from nothing, and she wanted me to carry on her legacy. The empire my grandmother, Catherine Montgomery, had built was worth billions. What started as a small boutique in the 1970s had grown into one of the most prestigious fashion houses in the world. I had watched her work her magic since I was a little girl, sitting at her feet during design meetings, learning about fabrics, cuts, and the business of fashion. My phone buzzed. Another message from James. Come on, Liz, be reasonable. You know I can handle this better than you. Don't make Mom upset. Before I could respond, my mother spoke again. Elizabeth, you're 25. You should be thinking about marriage, about starting a family. Running a global fashion empire is no job for a young woman. The irony of her statement wasn't lost on me. My grandmother had started House of Montgomery at 23, building it into a billion-dollar empire while raising my mother alone. But somehow, in my mother's mind, I wasn't capable of the same strength. I've been working in the company since I was 16, I reminded her. I know every department, every process. I've designed successful collections. Playing around with sketches isn't the same as running a business, my mother cut me off. James will keep you on as head designer, of course. That's more suitable. The dismissal in her tone made my blood boil, but I maintained my composure. My grandmother had taught me that too. Never let them see you lose control. I stood up, gathering the papers carefully. The will is clear, I said. Grandmother left me controlling interests and named me CEO. That's not changing. My mother's face hardened. We'll see about that. The board meeting is tomorrow. James will be there to present his vision for the company's future. I suggest you reconsider your position before then. As I walked out of the penthouse, my heels clicking against the marble floors, I pulled out my phone and made a call. Sarah, it's Elizabeth. I need you to send me everything we prepared. They're making their move tomorrow. Sarah, my grandmother's longtime assistant and my trusted ally, understood immediately. They're really going through with it, even after Catherine made her wishes so clear. They think they can pressure me into stepping aside. I replied, stepping into the elevator. Mother's convinced the board will support James once he presents his vision. Sarah's laugh was sharp. Oh, if she only knew what Catherine had set up. I'll send everything right away. Give them hell, Elizabeth. I smiled, thinking of the months of preparation my grandmother and I had put into this moment. She had known this would happen, had warned me about the power play my mother and James would attempt. More importantly, she had made sure I was ready for it. The next morning, I arrived at House of Montgomery's headquarters early. The magnificent glass building in the heart of Manhattan's fashion district had been my second home for years. The security guards nodded respectfully. They were used to seeing me arrive before dawn. Unlike my brother, who they visited maybe twice in the past year. In my office, my grandmother's former space, which I hadn't yet had the heart to change, I reviewed the documents Sarah had sent over. Everything was in order, just as we had planned. I touched the framed photo on my desk, my grandmother and me at my college graduation from Parsons School of Design. She was beaming with pride, both of us wearing designs I had created. I won't let you down, I whispered to her image. The board meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. By 9:30, board members began filtering into the conference room. I greeted each one personally, noting who met my eyes and who looked away uncomfortably. My mother arrived at 9:55, James trailing behind her in a poorly fitted suit that made me wince. For someone about to argue he should run a fashion empire, He certainly didn't look the part. "Elizabeth," my mother said coolly, taking her seat, "I hope you've made the right decision." I smiled politely but didn't respond. James smirked, probably interpreting my silence as submission. He had always underestimated me, ever since we were children. While he had coasted through life on charm and our mother's indulgence, I had worked, learned, and prepared. At exactly 10 a.m., I called the meeting to order. "Thank you all for coming. As you know, my grandmother, Catherine Montgomery, passed away 2 weeks ago. Her will named me as her successor, both as majority shareholder and CEO of House of Montgomery." My mother cleared her throat. "Yes, about that. James has prepared a presentation about the future direction of the company. Given the challenges facing the fashion industry, we believe a change in leadership would be beneficial." I nodded, maintaining my professional demeanor. "Of course. James, please proceed." My brother stood, fumbling with his tablet. After a few awkward moments, he launched into a generic presentation clearly copied from his business school coursework. His vision involved cutting the couture division, outsourcing production to cheaper facilities, and focusing on mass-market accessories, essentially destroying everything that made House of Montgomery special. I watched the board members' faces as he spoke, noting their reactions. Most seemed skeptical, though a few of my mother's longtime allies nodded encouragingly. When James finished, my mother immediately spoke up. "As you can see, James has a clear, modern vision for the company. Elizabeth is young and inexperienced. For the good of the company, she should step aside and let her brother take the helm." This was the moment I had been waiting for. I stood slowly, smoothing my dress, one of my own designs, naturally. "Thank you, James, for that interesting presentation. Before we discuss any changes in leadership, however, I have some documents to share." I nodded to Sarah, who began distributing folders to each board member. My mother frowned, clearly not expecting this. "These documents outline my grandmother's strategic plan for House of Montgomery's next 5 years," I began. "A plan we developed together over the past 2 years, which I have spent the last 6 months refining and preparing to implement." The board members opened their folders, and I continued. "You'll find detailed analysis of market trends, sustainability initiatives, digital integration strategies, and expansion plans for our couture division. Additionally, there are preliminary sketches for my first collection as creative director, along with projected financials based on pre-orders from our key retail partners." I clicked a button, and the screens around the room came to life, displaying my presentation. "But perhaps most importantly, you'll find documentation of my work within the company over the past 9 years. Every collection I've contributed to, every process improvement I've implemented, every client relationship I've built." My mother's face had gone pale. This wasn't part of her script. James shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "My grandmother built this company on a foundation of quality, creativity, and innovation." I continued. "She understood that true luxury isn't about mass production or quick profits. It's about craftsmanship, vision, and dedication to excellence." I walked around the table slowly, making eye contact with each board member. She also understood that leadership isn't inherited through gender or birthright. It's earned through hard work, understanding of the business, and commitment to its values. Reaching into my portfolio, I withdrew one final document. Which brings me to this: a detailed record of every time James has visited the company offices in the past 5 years. All 4 visits, totaling approximately 6 hours, along with his complete lack of involvement in any aspect of the business during that time. The board members murmured, flipping through their packets. My mother started to speak, but I held up my hand. "I'm not finished," I said firmly. "You'll also find my grandmother's personal notes about her succession planning, explaining in detail why she chose me as her successor. Not because I'm her granddaughter, but because I've proven my commitment to this company and my ability to lead it into the future." I returned to my seat at the head of the table. "Now, if anyone would like to discuss removing me as CEO, I'm happy to review my qualifications and vision for the company in more detail. Otherwise, I suggest we move on to actual business matters." The silence in the room was deafening. My mother's face had transformed from pale to red, while James seemed to be shrinking in his chair. Finally, Mr. Richardson, our longest-serving board member, cleared his throat. "I think Catherine knew exactly what she was doing," he said, looking directly at my mother. "Elizabeth has clearly demonstrated she's more than capable of leading this company. I moved that we proceed with the agenda under her leadership. One by one, the other board members voiced their agreement. Even my mother's allies couldn't argue with the evidence in front of them. James slumped further in his chair, his dreams of an easy path to power crumbling around him. My mother stood abruptly. "This isn't over, Elizabeth. You have no idea what you're doing to this family." I met her gaze steadily. "No, Mother. You have no idea what you almost did to grandmother's legacy. But don't worry. I'll make sure both the company and our family name remain as strong as she built them to be." As they stormed out of the conference room, I remained seated, maintaining my professional composure until the door closed behind them. Only then did I allow myself a small smile, touching the compass pendant my grandmother had given me on my 16th birthday. "Stay true to your course," she had told me then. "Others will try to redirect you, but you know where you're meant to go." Sarah appeared at my side, a knowing look in her eyes. "Catherine would be proud," she said softly. That was exactly how she handled her own board coup 30 years ago. I nodded, gathering my papers. "This is just the beginning," I replied. "They'll try again, probably sooner than we think, but we'll be ready." Looking out over the Manhattan skyline from the conference room windows, I felt a surge of determination. My grandmother had built this empire from nothing, fighting against prejudice and doubt every step of the way. Now it was my turn to carry her legacy forward, to prove that she had been right to believe in me. The real work was just beginning, but for the first time since her death, I felt truly ready to take on the challenge. I was Elizabeth Montgomery, CEO of House of Montgomery, and I had a fashion empire to run. The aftermath of the board meeting rippled through both the company and my family like an earthquake. My mother and James retreated to our family's Hamptons estate, presumably to lick their wounds and plot their next move. Meanwhile, I threw myself into implementing the plans my grandmother and I had developed. The first few weeks were intense. I arrived at the office before sunrise and left long after sunset, determined to prove myself worthy of my position. Sarah, bless her, kept me supplied with coffee and moral support as I navigated the challenges of my new role. "Your mother's been making calls," she informed me one evening, setting down a fresh espresso on my desk. "Reaching out to our major retailers, trying to solve doubts about the company's direction under your leadership." I looked up from the design sketches I was reviewing for our upcoming collection. "Let me guess, she's suggesting they wait to place their orders until the leadership situation stabilizes." Sarah nodded, her expression grim. "James has been doing the rounds at Fashion Week parties too, hinting at big changes coming to House of Montgomery." I leaned back in my chair, considering our options. My grandmother had warned me this would happen. The first attack hadn't worked, so they would try to undermine me more subtly. Set up meetings with our top 10 retailers, I decided. I'll show them the new collection personally, and get me everything we have on the sustainable luxury initiative we discussed. The next 2 weeks became a whirlwind of presentations and meetings. I flew to Paris, Milan, and London, meeting with luxury retailers and fashion editors. At each stop, I didn't just show them designs, I presented them with a comprehensive vision for House of Montgomery's future. "What your brother suggested would have destroyed the brand," the buyer from Harrods told me over dinner in London. "Mass market accessories, we have dozens of brands doing that. But this," she gestured to the sustainable luxury collection I presented, "this is revolutionary." The orders started flowing in, bigger than any previous season. But my mother wasn't done yet. One morning, I arrived at the office to find James waiting in my office, looking uncharacteristically serious. "Liz," he said, standing as I entered, "we need to talk." I set my bag down, keeping my expression neutral. "I have a meeting in 20 minutes, James. Make it quick." He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I remembered from childhood. "Look, I know things got heated at the board meeting. But you're my sister. We shouldn't be fighting like this." "Are we fighting?" I asked coolly. "I thought I was just running the company grandmother left me." "That's just it," he said, stepping closer. "Mom's really worried about you. The pressure, the long hours. It's not healthy. We think, maybe we could work together. Co-CEOs, share the burden." I almost laughed. After years of ignoring the company, now he wanted to share the burden. "Did Mother put you up to this, or was it your idea?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. He had the grace to look embarrassed. "She's just trying to look out for both of us." The company's big enough for both of us, Liz. Like it was big enough for you when you were partying through business school, or when you couldn't be bothered to attend a single design meeting in 5 years? I kept my voice level, but my words hit home. That's not fair, he protested. I was finding myself, figuring out my path. And I was here. I cut him off. Learning the business, working with our artisans, understanding what makes House of Montgomery special. This isn't about fairness, James. It's about capability and commitment. He switched tactics, his expression hardening. Mom's not going to give up, you know. She has connections, influence. She could make things very difficult for you. And there it was, the threat behind the olive branch. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. Thank you for making the situation so clear, I said calmly. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a company to run. After you left, I called Sarah. Get me the files on Project Legacy, I instructed. It's time to move forward with Phase 2. Project Legacy was something my grandmother and I had developed during her final months. She had known my mother would never accept my leadership willingly, so we had prepared accordingly. That afternoon, I called a press conference. The room was packed with fashion journalists, industry insiders, and influencers. My mother and James stood at the back, probably expecting some sort of surrender. Instead, I announced House of Montgomery's new direction, a revolutionary approach to sustainable luxury fashion, combining traditional craftsmanship with cutting-edge sustainable materials. The centerpiece was a collaboration with women-owned artisan workshops across the globe, creating a network of sustainable luxury production that would set new standards for the industry. House of Montgomery was founded by a woman who dared to challenge industry norms, I told the assembled press. Today, we're honoring that legacy by once again leading the way forward. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Fashion blogs exploded with coverage, our social media engagement skyrocketed, and pre-orders for the new collection broke all previous records. But I wasn't done. I announced a new mentorship program for young female designers named in honor of my grandmother. The program would provide resources, training, and opportunities for the next generation of fashion innovators. As the initiatives rolled out, my mother's attempts to undermine me began to backfire. Her complaints about my leadership started to sound like sour grapes in the face of our growing success. Even her society friends began distancing themselves, not wanting to be associated with her increasingly obvious attempts to sabotage her own daughter. The final straw came when Women in Business magazine ran a cover story about me, highlighting how I was transforming House of Montgomery while staying true to its founding principles. The article included quotes from industry leaders praising my vision and leadership. My mother showed up at my office unannounced the day the magazine hit newsstands. Enough, she declared, throwing the magazine on my desk. You've made your point. Now it's time to be reasonable. I looked at the magazine cover, my photograph next to the headline, Fashion's New Generation. Elizabeth Montgomery redefines luxury. I am being reasonable, I replied. I'm running the company successfully, exactly as grandmother intended. This isn't about the company, she exploded. This is about family, about respecting your mother's wishes. I stood up slowly, meeting her gaze. No, Mother. This is about respecting grandmother's wishes, about honoring the legacy she built and entrusted to me. And if you can't support that, then maybe it's time for you to step away from the company entirely. Her face paled. What do you mean? I pulled out a folder, another piece of grandmother's careful planning. Your position on the board is up for renewal next month. As majority shareholder, I'll be voting on that renewal. The choice is yours. Either accept my leadership and work with me to continue grandmother's legacy or step aside completely. She stared at me, finally seeing me not as her daughter who needed guidance, but as the CEO my grandmother had trained me to be. You wouldn't dare, she whispered. I don't want to, I corrected her. I'd much rather have your support, but I will not let your personal issues jeopardize this company or grandmother's legacy. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then something shifted in her expression. A subtle change I couldn't quite read. You really are her granddaughter, she said finally, her voice softer. She would be proud of how you're handling this. It wasn't quite acceptance, but it was a start. As she turned to leave, she paused at the door. The Sustainable Luxury Initiative, she said, not turning around. It's actually quite brilliant. Your grandmother would have loved it. After she left, I sat back in my chair, feeling the weight of the past weeks. On my desk, the compass pendant my grandmother had given me caught the afternoon light. I picked it up, running my fingers over its familiar surface. Stay true to your course, I whispered her words to myself. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but at least now I knew I could handle whatever challenges came my way. Sarah appeared in the doorway. The design team is ready for the collection review, she announced. And a sustainable materials supplier from Japan is online too. I stood up, straightening my shoulders. There was work to be done, and I was ready to do it. Time to move forward, I said, heading to the conference room. House of Montgomery's future was in my hands, and I intended to make it shine brighter than ever. 6 months after my confrontation with my mother, House of Montgomery was thriving in ways even I hadn't anticipated. Our sustainable luxury initiative had become the talk of the fashion world, with waiting lists for our new collections growing longer by the day. More importantly, the changes we'd implemented were making a real difference in the industry. I was reviewing the quarterly reports in my office when Sarah knocked on the door, her expression unusually hesitant. "Your brother is here," she announced, "and he looks different." Before I could respond, James appeared behind her. Sarah was right, he did look different. Gone was the polished playboy facade. He was wearing a simple button-down shirt and looked like he hadn't slept well in days. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. I nodded to Sarah, who closed the door behind her as she left. James sat down heavily in one of the visitor chairs. "I messed up," he said without preamble, "not just with the company, with everything." I waited, letting him continue. "I've been thinking about what you said about capability and commitment. You were right. I never earned any of this. I just expected it to be handed to me because I was the son." He pulled out his phone and showed me an article about a failed business venture he tried to launch. I thought running a company would be easy, that I could just delegate everything and take the credit. But my startup failed spectacularly. I lost all my investors' money within 3 months. "I heard," I said quietly. The news had made some minor headlines, more embarrassment for the Montgomery name. "The thing is," he continued, "watching you these past months, you make it look effortless. But I know it's not. I see the hours you put in, the thought behind every decision. You're not just running the company, you're making it better." I studied my brother's face, seeing real humility there for the first time in our lives. "What do you want, James?" He straightened in his chair. "A job, an entry-level position. I want to learn the business properly from the ground up. No shortcuts, no special treatment." I hadn't expected this. "Does Mother know you're here?" He shook his head. "She's still at the Hampton house, planning her social comeback. But I'm done letting her fight my battles. I need to figure out who I am without her influence." I considered his request carefully. This could be another ploy, another attempt to get a foothold in the company. But something in his demeanor felt genuine. "If I agree," I said slowly, "there are conditions. You start at the bottom. No special treatment, no shortcuts. You work your way up like anyone else." "Agreed," he said immediately. "And James, if this is some kind of strategy, if you're trying to undermine me again." He met my eyes steadily. "It's not. I swear, Liz, I just want a chance to prove, to myself more than anyone, that I can actually earn something on my own merit." 2 weeks later, James started in our quality control department, inspecting fabric samples and learning about materials. To everyone's surprise, including mine, he threw himself into the work with genuine enthusiasm. "He's actually quite good," the department head reported. "Very detail-oriented, and he's been staying late to learn more about textile composition." Meanwhile, our sustainable luxury initiative was expanding. The mentorship program for young female designers had attracted international attention, and our collaboration with artisan workshops was transforming communities. One morning, I arrived at the office to find an unexpected visitor waiting in the lobby, my mother. She looked different too, more subdued than I'd ever seen her. When I approached, she stood, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. "I saw the Forbes article," she said, "about how you're revolutionizing sustainable luxury fashion. And then I visited one of the artisan workshops in Italy." I raised an eyebrow, surprised. She'd actually gone to see the program in action. "The women there," she continued, "they spoke about you with such respect. About how you're not just running a business, you're creating opportunities, building something meaningful." She paused, seeming to struggle with her next words. Your grandmother, she used to talk about fashion the same way, about how it could be more than just clothes, how it could change lives. That's what she built House of Montgomery to be, I replied. A force for positive change in the industry. My mother nodded slowly. I forgot that somewhere along the way, I got caught up in status, in control. I wanted James to take over because that's what society expected. A son continuing the family business. She looked around the lobby, taking in the displays of our latest collection mixed with photographs of our artisan partners at work. But this is what Catherine would have wanted. You're not just continuing her legacy, you're expanding it, making it even more impactful. That was always the plan, I said quietly. Grandmother and I spent years discussing how to take House of Montgomery into the future while staying true to its core values. I know that now, my mother replied. I should have seen it sooner. The way she mentored you, the way you absorbed everything about the business. I was so busy trying to maintain control that I couldn't see what was right in front of me. She straightened her shoulders, meeting my eyes directly. I'm sorry, Elizabeth, for trying to push you aside, for not believing in you. And I'm ready to step back completely if that's what you want. I studied her face, seeing real sincerity there. I don't want you to step back, I said finally. I want you to step up. To be the mother who supports her daughter's success instead of trying to control it. Tears welled in her eyes, the first real emotion I'd seen from her in years. I'd like that, she whispered. James is doing well in quality control, I told her, changing the subject slightly. He's actually showing real promise. She smiled, dabbing at her eyes carefully. I know. He calls me sometimes after work, excited about something new he's learned. I've never heard him so engaged before. We stood in silence for a moment, both absorbing how much had changed in the past months. Would you like to see the new collection? I offered. We're incorporating traditional weaving techniques from our artisan partners, combined with sustainable materials. Grandmother would have loved it. My mother's smile widened. I'd like that very much. As I led her through the design floor, showing her the innovations we were implementing, I touched my compass pendant. Stay true to your course, Grandmother had said. By doing exactly that, I hadn't just preserved her legacy, I'd helped my family find their true paths as well. House of Montgomery was more than just a fashion empire now. It was a testament to the power of staying true to one's values, of leading with vision and purpose. And finally, my family was beginning to understand that too. 1 year after inheriting House of Montgomery, I stood on stage at the Global Fashion Innovation Awards, accepting the award for industry leadership in sustainable luxury. The audience was filled with fashion's elite, including my mother and James, both beaming with genuine pride. House of Montgomery was founded on the belief that fashion could be both beautiful and meaningful. I began my acceptance speech. My grandmother understood that true luxury isn't just about expensive materials or exclusive designs. It's about creating value that extends beyond the garment itself. From my position on stage, I could see Sarah wiping away tears in the front row. Next to her, the leaders of our artisan workshops, women we've flown in from around the world for this event, sat in designs they'd helped create. This award doesn't just belong to me or to House of Montgomery, I continued. It belongs to every artisan who's part of our global network, every young designer in our mentorship program, and every customer who believes that luxury fashion can be a force for positive change. The transformation of our company had exceeded even my most optimistic projections. Our sustainable luxury lines had set new standards for the industry, with other major fashion houses scrambling to follow our lead. The mentorship program had launched dozens of promising careers, creating a pipeline of diverse talent that was reshaping the fashion landscape. But the most meaningful transformation had happened within my own family. James had worked his way up to head of materials innovation, earning every promotion through genuine merit. His experience in quality control had sparked a passion for sustainable textiles, and he'd become one of our leading voices in developing new eco-friendly materials. Your grandmother would be so impressed, my mother had said recently, watching James give a presentation on biodegradable luxury fabrics, not just with his knowledge, but with how he's grown as a person. She had grown too. After our reconciliation, she'd thrown herself into supporting our artisan initiative, using her social connections to open doors and create opportunities. The woman who had once cared only about status now spoke passionately about economic empowerment and sustainable practices. As I concluded my speech, I touched the compass pendant that still hung around my neck. Success isn't just about reaching the top, I said, thinking of my grandmother's wisdom. It's about lifting others up along the way. That's the true meaning of luxury, creating beauty that enriches not just the wearer, but everyone involved in its creation. The standing ovation that followed felt like a validation not just of our business success, but of the values that had guided us here. At the gala dinner afterward, I found myself seated between my mother and James, surrounded by industry leaders and fashion journalists. The conversation flowed easily, touched with a warmth that had once been missing from our family interactions. "Did you see the latest sales figures?" James asked excitedly. "The biodegradable evening wear collection is outperforming our projections by 200%. My mother laughed. "Remember when you used to think fashion was boring? Now look at you, getting excited about sustainable textiles." "Because Liz showed me it could be more than just clothes," he replied, giving me a warm smile. "She showed all of us what this business could really be." Later that evening, as the celebration wound down, my mother pulled me aside. "I have something for you," she said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a letter, dated just days before my grandmother's death. It was addressed to my mother. "My dearest daughter, by the time you read this, I'll be gone, and Elizabeth will be taking her place as head of House of Montgomery. I know this isn't what you expected or wanted, but I need you to understand why. I've watched Elizabeth grow not just into a talented designer and businesswoman, but into a visionary leader. She sees what this company can be, not just what it is. More importantly, she understands that true success isn't measured by profit margins alone, but by the positive impact we can have on the world. You've always worried about maintaining our family's position, about doing what society expects. But Elizabeth, like me, dreams bigger than that. She doesn't just want to run a successful company, she wants to change the industry for the better. Trust her, support her, and watch her soar. She'll take House of Montgomery further than I ever could, and she'll do it while staying true to the values that matter most. With all my love, Mother." I looked up at my mother, tears blurring my vision. "When did you find this?" "The day after the board meeting," she admitted. "I was going through her papers, looking for something to use against you, if I'm being honest. Instead, I found this. It made me start seeing things differently, start seeing you differently." She took my hand, squeezing it gently. "She was right about you, Elizabeth. About everything. I'm so sorry it took me so long to see it too." Across the room, James was deep in conversation with one of our artisan partners, gesturing enthusiastically as he discussed a new sustainable material innovation. The young designers from our mentorship program mingled with industry veterans, their energy and fresh perspectives invigorating the entire room. This was the future my grandmother had envisioned, not just a successful fashion house, but a force for positive change in the industry, and we were making it happen, not just as a company, but as a family. "You know what's funny?" my mother said, following my gaze. "For years, I thought success meant following a certain path, meeting certain expectations. But watching you this past year has taught me that real success comes from having the courage to forge your own path." I touched my compass pendant, smiling. "Staying true to your course," I murmured. "Exactly," she agreed. "Your grandmother always said that, didn't she?" I never really understood what she meant until now. As the evening drew to a close, I stood at the window of the venue, looking out over the city lights. House of Montgomery's flagship store was visible in the distance, its elegant facade now adorned with our latest sustainable luxury campaign. Sarah appeared at my side, holding out a tablet. "The Asian market's just opened," she said. "The new collection is breaking all previous records." I smiled, but didn't take the tablet. "Let's save the numbers for tomorrow," I said. "Tonight is for celebrating how far we've come." She nodded, understanding. "Catherine would be so proud," she said softly, "not just of the company's success, but of how you've brought your family together." Looking around the room at my mother chatting with our artisan partners, at James explaining our sustainable practices to interested investors, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. We had built something remarkable, not just a successful business, but a united family and a force for positive change. The compass pendant caught the light, reminding me once again of my grandmother's wisdom. By staying true to my course, I hadn't just preserved her legacy, I helped my entire family find their own true paths. And together, we were creating something even more meaningful than she could have imagined. That, I realized, was her greatest gift to me. Not the company itself, but the wisdom to lead it with purpose, vision, and unwavering commitment to what matters most. House of Montgomery wasn't just about fashion anymore. It was about family, sustainability, and positive impact. And we were just getting started.